Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm super pumped for today's session. I know a lot of you, it's spring break right now, so shout out to all of you. We have the real dedicated people in here right now. And yeah, I'd love before we start, it'd be great if you guys in chat can just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, like if you're working on a project or whatnot, and what you're excited to learn about today. In the meanwhile, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So for those of you who I haven't met before, hi, I'm Saper, like the fruit pear, makes it easier to remember. I'm really passionate about teaching people at the intersection of business and technology. During my day job, I work at Coinbase as an AI platform engineer, and outside of that, I just like to teach as a passion. Last semester, I taught an award-winning entrepreneurship course called Product Launch, where we helped 21 companies launch their products in just one semester. And in April, I'll be teaching another course called Gen AI Bootcamp, which is open to the public, so anybody can sign up and get a certificate. And I'll talk a little bit about that later in the stream. So stick around if you might be interested in that. We did one of these live streams about a month ago, and we spent an hour taking an idea from the audience and using this AI tool called Lovable to see how far we can get it in just 1 hour. And we got a lot of great feedback, but a lot of the people wanted to know how this translates to actually making money. So that's what this session today is going to be focused on. Uh, so with that being said, first I'm gonna talk a little bit about the massive money-making opportunity that exists today and how I personally almost accidentally made $2,000 in a weekend doing this. And then afterwards, I'm doing a little walkthrough to show you how you can do the same. Um, First, we're gonna talk about like this tool called Lovable, and then that's what I use to create this pizza shop that I made like $2,000 off of. But then after that, we're also gonna talk about this other tool called N8N, which is like a no-code tool that you can use to add AI agents to your software. So first, I want to go throughout time and talk about some of the new tools and industry shifts that have happened that created a riffle and then created opportunity for people to make money online. Right. First, we had YouTube AdSense in 2017, 2013, which was triggered by Google acquiring YouTube. And then that launched a partner program. So a bunch of people ran onto there and were making a bunch of money. And then 2015 to 2019, and even till today, we have drop shipping and with Shopify and AliExpress, which is driven by the rise of China's manufacturing. And people get cheap products, run Facebook ads, resell them for more, and that a ton of people got rich off of that. And then we had Amazon FBA, where sellers source products and branded them, and Amazon handles all the shipping for you. People would just buy products, send it directly to Amazon's warehouse, never touch any of the storage. And a lot of people also got rich off of that. And then we had Airbnb arbitrage a little bit more recently, where people were renting out units, and instead of renting it out for a whole year, they rent it out day by day and make a ton of money. And that like continued through up to COVID. And then very recently, we've had the TikTok gold rush, where a bunch of new creators are coming on there and monetizing off of branding different products that they're doing through TikTok Shop, and yeah, ton of money onto there. And that brings me to like what is the latest thing that we have, which is, as you can tell, AI. So all of these trends are big money making opportunities, especially if you get in early. With all of these, there's still people making money doing all of these, but it's the people that get in early and really learn how to do it well that make the most money. So the opportunity, I think, with this one is bigger than anything before. And yeah, that's what we're going to go over today. Now, I want to set some realistic expectations, because on one side, you have people saying how easy this is to do. And on the other side, you have people saying AI is useless. Uh, and yeah, so like there's a bunch of TikTok videos you see, and no hate to any of these creators out there. I watch some of them, like I'm just looking at the titles, but people say you can build an app in 30 seconds. And I mean, it's kind of true. You can get something that looks like an app in a couple of minutes using an AI tool. But overall, it's, yeah. Wait, sorry. Are the slides sharing? Just wanted to make sure with the chat.
Yeah, Sabir, if you can, yeah, put the slides in, I can share those. Sorry, I don't think they've been shown yet. So if you,
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. Feel free to interrupt me at any point, Keith, if we have any technical issues. Does Okay. Yeah, so we've been missing the slides up till now. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. And then, yeah, here's how you can build an app in 30 seconds type people that I was talking about. So yeah, it's kind of true. You can get something that looks like an app in a couple seconds, but it's not going to be something that's actually functional and people want to use. And then on the other end, you have some AI skeptics who hate everything about AI. Some say it hallucinates too much. Some call it a fancy search engine. And some say it's not as widely used as people claim to be. And overall, they just lean towards the side of AI slows you down more than it helps you out, which is also true in some cases, although those cases are becoming fewer and fewer every day. So I want to set some realistic expectations of what you can build and how long it takes based off of some apps that I've created and some apps that my students have created in the past. So yeah, this is one of the first ones. This is like a couples therapy app that I created, one of the first apps I created. And we can go ahead and demo this right now. Let me pull it up. Keith, would you mind being my partner and demoing this with me?
Of course. Yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna send you a link in the chat. So this app is a couples therapy. I had a friend one time come and say like, complaining about his relationship. I said, sounds like you need couples therapy. And he was like, yeah, but that's too expensive. So just for a fun idea, I thought I'd make this. You just come on here, you copy an invite link, you join the room, you put in your name, your partner joins the room on their end, and then you can kind of just chat with them here and be like, hi, Keith keeps eating all my food. And Keith on the other end can type something as well. And it should pop up here. Yeah, so there you go. And then you hit this button and request therapy input, which for this, we're just using ChatGPT to generate the response. So they'll just like ask some questions, whatever, so something basic. But that's just to give you an example of this. So that app right there that was like one of the first apps I was building. So it took me longer. It took me about like 16 hours total and about like 80 plus prompts. But that was because it was my like first time figuring this out. And honestly, like half of that time was probably, you see this like pink glow around here. I was trying to do an animation effect with that, and like that was really difficult to set up. But besides that, should have took like a lot less. And then a couple of apps like my students have made one is a Step Up app called like Step Up, and it's a self accountability coach where you can come on here and like chat with them. And that took about 8 hours and 60 prompts. And then we had another app that a student made called Utidly, which is like outfit of the day. You can take pictures of your wardrobe and it'll store it on here. And I'll actually demo this one right here. So yeah, with this app, you can come onto here, you upload pictures of your wardrobe, and it saves on to here. So I just uploaded a couple of random pictures. It'll have a description of the clothing item stored on the back end and then give you like a title of it. And then you can come to the recommend page and you can like tell it, hey, I'm playing basketball today, I'm playing that whatever today, or I'm going to this sort of fancy event today. Can you give me an outfit recommendation? So yeah, and this one took only 5 hours and less than 20 prompts. And that's partially because the person doing it had a little bit of software experience, which really helps with this. You don't need a ton, but a little bit helps. And because we really got how to best prompt Lovable down, which I will show off a little bit later today. So yeah, I just wanted to set some realistic expectations of like how things will look and how long this will take. And now I'm gonna show you like how I went about accidentally almost making $2,000 in a weekend. And I have a video here that Keith might be able to play.
Yeah, I had some child ones. This is child one.
Okay. Excuse me. Have you ever? No. Okay. Okay, so to give a little background context of this, what happened is I'm recording a YouTube video that I'm posting next week where I just went up to random people in public and asked 50 people for their app ideas and took the top 2 best ideas and actually built it for them. The video's not ready, but I just had this blooper clip of somebody rejecting me when I went up to ask. Nobody wanted to give an app idea, so they rejected me. I posted this, and then on TikTok, somebody commented and they were like, dude, build me an app. I have a 20-year-old pizza shop store and we just need like an app made to get rid of DoorDash and these third-party services. So I ended up DMing him, talking to him about it. I told him like I can't build it for free because it's production level. It's gonna like take me quite a bit of time. But if you want, like you can pay me for it and I can create it. So we talked a little bit and he said, yeah, I can like pay you $2,000 to do it. And this is actually a picture he sent me right today before this. He hired a photographer to come and take pictures of all their different products so we can build the page. And yeah, like I did this with zero marketing, just like a random TikTok video that got less than 1,000 views. So imagine if someone was intentional about this and started posting about it, telling people what you do. And this was done on just like a simple pizza shop, which is the most simple thing you can make. But with the tools I'm going to teach you today, there's so much more that you can make even with zero coding knowledge. So the capability of what you can market is so much more. And to show you a prototype of what it looks like making this app, yeah, here. This is the app. This I mocked up in like 10 minutes, right? I just uploaded their logo. They also wanted it to, they order online through this third-party app called Slice, which they wanted to include. So I added that on here. And this whole process of making this app, this was a total of 3 prompts. And yeah, took like 30 minutes. And now all I kind of need to do is fill out the other pages once he provides me the information for it. In total, like I think this project's going to take me around 5 hours, 10 hours to be liberal max. And this is something like you could do too. So yeah, that's one of the 2 ways you can make money off this, right? The first is you either set up an agency that does this, or you just become a freelancer doing this sort of work. And this is an example that I found on Upwork. So Upwork is a site where you can go and hire freelancers to build for you. And I just searched up somebody who can build software and is in the United States. And I took the first 2 examples to show. So this guy right here charges $70 an hour, which is quite nice. I think that's like well over 100K a year if you're working full time. And he does no code development. So like, granted, you're not going to just make a profile and be flooded with requests, but in the same way where you're not just going to make a resume and land a job, right? Especially in 2025, you got to put some work in. But I definitely think if you have a goal of making 100K, it would be done much faster if you put your full effort into doing something like this rather than job hunting. And if we do the math right, I was able to make 2K in 1 weekend, spending like 5 to 10 hours of work, right? And 2K is on the very low end of what you would charge for this because it's a simple pizza shop. But if you're able to do this and land maybe like roughly 2 clients a week, I don't know the exact math. I think it's like around 190K that would equate to that you're able to make a year. And again, that's on the very low end, right? I had another student in my class last semester who decided he wanted to start an AI business automation agency about a month ago. And in 1 week, he landed a client that was willing to pay him 10K for a project. So it's definitely possible. I've seen multiple people do it. And on top of that, this guy that you see on the screen right now, he's a no-code right here. If you see it, he's a no-code development agency, which means he's using no-code tools. Now, what we're learning today are tools that you don't need to know how to code for, but you're still going to be writing code, which makes the amount of things you can make a lot more than what he can make with his no-code tool, because he's using like a drag and drop builder, whereas you're just having AI code for you. So yeah, if you're here right now in this live stream, you have an advantage. And that's one, because AI just came out and there's so many applications of it. And there's a need in the market for more people who know how to actually build these implementations. And it's so simple to do. All it really is using ChatGPT's brain and plug it into your app. And 2, because AI has democratized creating software. So just about anybody, product managers, entrepreneurs, zero coding experience can do this. And yeah, like these are the 2 tools that we're going to do it. And you might think like, if everybody can do this, what's the point? It's quickly going to get oversaturated. And you're right. I think soon this will become oversaturated, but right now it still isn't. As of February of 2025, only 23% of adults have used ChatGPT and less than 0.1% of US adults have used Lovable. In fact, Lovable's been out for less than 6 months as of the time that we're making this. So like you're in the perfect spot if you're in this live stream to start doing this. And just to really like hone in the point, the second freelancer I saw on here has earned $3 million total and charges $90 an hour. He charged like 40K for this SaaS application management, which, to be fair, I don't know exactly what this is, but I know that it's possible from doing it myself and having a student do something similar. So that's one way. Now, the second way you can go about this, and the one I personally recommend, is building a startup or a micro SaaS, which would be just like a mini startup, right? And I see we're getting some comments. I'm going to take a quick look at that to see if anybody has pictures. Questions, I mean. Yeah, somebody said, have you ever vibe coded with all the LLMs? Yes. So what we're going to be doing today is kind of like next level vibe coding, right? We're using Lovable, which is going to write all the code for us, and then N8N, which does AI automations for us. And we'll get into that in about like a couple minutes here. And yeah, I'd love for this to be an interactive session. So I want this to help you as much as you can. Just keep posting questions if you have any. So yeah, in terms of the startups, we have this guy who built this app called Umax. He capitalized on a trend that was going on called looks maxing, where people on the internet were basically trying to become as attractive as they possibly can. And this is a super simple app that you can build in a weekend, where you just scan your face, it tells you how attractive you are, and then AI gives you recommendations on how to improve this. And in fact, the guy who built this app didn't know how to code at all, and he has over 5 million downloads. And I don't remember the exact number, but he was making well over $100,000 a month off of this tiny little app that he built, right? So I think the agency route will make you money quicker and faster, and it's more guaranteed. Whereas building a startup, 90% of startups fail, right? So you might have to launch 10 different apps before you get one of them to work. But the payout and the total expected value of doing a startup would probably be a little bit more than if you were to do freelancing work or an AI agency. But it really just depends on your skill set and who you run into and some level of luck as well. So now we're going to get into the walkthrough of how to use these tools. But before I do that, is there any questions from the chat? Okay, if not, we're gonna go ahead and just hop straight into it. So I'm gonna walk through two things. First is how I made the simple pizza app, and two is how you can use these AI agents and automation tools. So for the pizza app, this pizza app that I showed earlier, yeah, this was a total of 3 prompts. So this site is called Lovable. You come onto here. Let me go to the main screen. It's just like ChatGPT, except it's better at writing code, and you can launch your software all on this platform without having to ever touch anything outside of it. So you just come on here and you give it the specifications of what you're looking for. And I see somebody asked, where do you host your projects? Lovable lets you host your projects directly onto here. So I'll show you. What I did is I just took this prompt right here, very basic. I said, I want you to help recreate my pizza website. I have attached the logos. The name is Magu's California Pizza. Draw inspiration from the image that I attached. And this was the image that I added on here. Now, I'm not doing this live because when you hit enter on this, it's going to take like 10 minutes to load. And I want to save us all the time from doing that. But I've preloaded this, right? So we can just kind of look at what it generated here. Oh, let's see. Okay, here it is. Yeah, so I created this, and I can't show you exactly what it generated, but it generated just about what it looks like here. And I just had 2 more prompts afterwards. I said all the orders should be through this Slice app. I uploaded an image of this Slice app that you see at the bottom right. And I gave it the URL that I wanted to redirect to once you click this. So now this is what happens. If you click this app, it redirects to Slice, which is their ordering app, some like DoorDash type app. I added that, and then it had an issue where all these buttons here were saying add to order, which isn't the case. We're like starting the order when you create on there. So I just took a picture and then told it, hey, make these buttons all line up and also make it start order or something else since it's redirecting to Slice. And it did that, right? So I'm like 90%, maybe not 90, like 60, 70% of the way done already. I just need to get the photos, kind of the copy, and add this onto here and host. And somebody asked, how do you host, right? Lovable allows you to host directly off their site. So I can just come here, hit publish, and this will in one button publish my site. In fact, here, I think I have already published this. Yeah, I have. So this link right here, anybody who visits this link right now will see this website, right? Very quick, very fast. And you wouldn't want this to be the URL for your final pizza shop, but you can also buy that directly on here. They allow you to go search for domain names, pick the one you want. It's for basic ones, it's like $20 a year, and you can just redirect your site directly to that. And I see another question came in. Is this being recorded and going to be shared after the webinar? Yes, this is going to be recorded, so you can come back to the same link after the event ends. There's going to be a recording of it that's going to be shared. So yeah, that's how I made the pizza app. Now I want to show you how you do AI automations, which is this tool called N8N to create more complicated web apps. So we're gonna make an app together. I've made it ahead of time just in case we have too much loading time, but we're gonna try to do it together here. So I want to make an app that just takes a YouTube URL from online and I can paste it, hit enter, and it generates a transcript for me. That'll be like the first stage goal, and then the second stage goal will be like if I can upload my own personal data of my writing style and stuff about me, so it can recreate the image, the YouTube video for me. So this would be basically an app for creators who are trying to come up with YouTube ideas and TikTok videos and whatnot. They can upload other people's content and use that as inspiration to generate a script for their own video. We'll see if we get to all of that. The main basic thing that I want to show and the more important part is just doing an N8N and calling it to generate these transcripts. So I'm going to tell Lovable here, I'm going to say, make a one-page site that takes in a YouTube URL, and then I can hit a button that generates the transcript. I will provide you a webhook for the transcript generation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on that, and while that loads real quickly, I'm gonna explain what an API is, and then just tell you what a webhook is as well. So our application is going to be using ChatGPT, right? Normally you go onto the website, you type whatever in your chat prompt, you hit enter, you get a response. But what if we want our website to use ChatGPT as its brain? We use something called an API, which basically means you send like 3 pieces of information to this thing called an API, which just connects to ChatGPT's servers and gets a response from it. So the 3 things would be the prompt, like whatever message you're sending, the model you want to use. So there's like ChatGPT 3.5, 4.0, etc., and an API key. An API key, you can go ahead and like get online. You can just go on ChatGPT's business site. They give you a little key, and this basically just charges you. So it's pretty cheap. It's not that expensive. It's like a couple of cents per request. But yeah, it just links to your billing. So ChatGPT knows who is calling their API, and they can charge you accordingly, and then you'll get your response. A webhook is basically the same thing as an API. If you're not very technical, there's a slight difference in how it works. To make it simple, an API, when you send a request, waits for a response, whereas a webhook sends the request and like doesn't wait for the response, and it's up to the server to send a response back. But you don't, if that didn't make sense, like don't worry, you don't need to know the implementation details of any of that. Just basically treat that as something you can call to get a response. So while this page is loading, we're going to go ahead and hop into N8N and see how these AI agent tools work. But we got another question in the chat. Is this tool entirely free? I'm assuming there's a subscription after a certain number of credits. From Harris. Yes, correct. So Lovable gives you 5 free prompts a day. And beyond that, their base level subscription is $20 for 100 prompts a month, which it's pretty good. There's a couple of tools you can use as well. There's another one called Bolt you can use. And that's a little bit more expensive, but I think Lovable would be the best one. And I think for the price, it's pretty fair. N8 on the other end can be completely free if you self-host it, but that like it requires some technical details. But basically, N8 and will also cost you $20 a month. Yeah, and if you do end up signing up for the course, we're in talks with these companies. N8N just today gave me like a free subscription to all the students, and I'm gonna hope to get the same thing for Lovable. But yeah, so these are how these AI agent tools work. We have first a box, which here says when a chat message is received. This is called the trigger. You're always going to start with a trigger box, which indicates what event is going to trigger your whole flow to start running. And there's different boxes you can use. This plugs into many different third-party platforms, for example, like Slack, Telegram, and there's just like so many more. I don't even know all of these, but you can connect to so many different, like DHL. DHL is for shipping for businesses, right? So you can build so many different automations linking to so many different apps without writing a single line of code. And we're just going to go through an example of that. This box right here is the AI agent box, which I don't particularly recommend to use, but it's all of the hype right now. So I'm going to explain to you how you use it and what it really is. What you're seeing here, the entire process is called a workflow. A workflow is just basically a bunch of nodes connected together where information gets transferred, and at the end you get a response. An AI agent can be implemented into a workflow, but it makes its own decisions. So this AI agent is connected to ChatGPT. It has some memory where it can store data, and it can also access my Google Calendar. And I could add as many other tools as I want into this. And when I send a prompt into this AI agent, it will think for itself and decide what it needs to talk to achieve the goal that you want. So for this one, which is a demo that we created, if you press the chat here, this is just the trigger field, so it's not going to have much. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Here's the AI agent. You have drop downs for like what specifically you want the AI agent to be doing. This is a tools agent because we're going to be using a few different tools to use it. And it's connected chat on trigger. So it looks for an input called chat input, which comes from the previous node. And then we have the system message here, which is basically telling it what we want it to do or what we want it to act as. And here we're just saying like simply we want it to be a helpful assistant. And we also give it today's date and time, which is, yeah, this is just like a JavaScript code, but you don't need to know this. If you do, like I'll explain a little bit of it later. We also link it to a memory so it can remember conversations. And finally, we connect it to Google Calendar. You'll have to authenticate this with your account. I've already done this ahead of time, but basically if you see here, you can create a new credential, then it will give you the documentation on how you go to Google Calendar and receive an API key, which we talked about earlier, to know to connect with your specific Google Calendar. So yeah, we can go ahead and test this here. I can say, let me see. I can open the chat and say, hello, what is my schedule looking like for tomorrow? So I don't know if I have anything on my calendar, but if I do, it's going to go ahead and pull that and show it to us. But this AI agent will talk to the Google Calendar tool if it feels it's necessary, or it won't. Let's go ahead and refresh the page. Might have some trouble loading. I see some more questions in the chat. How long can the prompts be? It depends on the model that you're using. So you can connect to any model. I have ChatGPT right now, but you could connect to like Gemini, Anthropic, Claude, Perplexity, just about anything. And these models have such long context tokens now. I think you can do like nearly billions of words. Oh, what is my schedule like tomorrow? Okay, there we go. Now it triggered. So if you saw that recall, the AI agent started, it immediately went to the Google Calendar, got a response from it, and then went to ChatGPT to generate like what it's gonna say. And yeah, this matches what's on my calendar tomorrow. I have work from 8 to 12, and then a lunch break, and then work again from 1 to 5. And you can even click on these events and view them. So now I'm gonna show you how you can build this to get YouTube transcripts for our app here. Which let's see if it's loaded. Okay, seems like we had error. So the great thing about Lovable is when it has error, you just hit the button and it figures it out to fix it itself. We're gonna hit that, let it continue to generate. And you're thinking like, maybe you're thinking this seems complicated. I don't know how to build all these. The amazing thing is they have templates for this on N8N. Let me save this right here. Okay, yeah, so they have over 1,000 templates where you can come onto here and find pre-built workflows for whatever you're looking for. So I already found one that analyzes YouTube videos into summaries, transcripts, and visual highlights, but you can just search for whatever app you want integrations with and see the templates that people have made before. Most of them on here are free. Some of them you have to pay like $5 to $20 for. Just depends on what the user is charging. And yeah, so I'm gonna grab this template and we're gonna edit it to be able to use it within Lovable. So we're gonna hit use here for free. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. So now we have N8N, this template loaded up, this installed it. So now this is our workflow that we own. And we're gonna go ahead and see what it has in here, analyze it, and then edit it for our liking. So first we look at the trigger event. The trigger event here is when clicking test workflow. So before we had a chat trigger, this time when you hit test workflow, it's gonna trigger this. And then the second one we have is set values for the flow. So if you come into here, the person who created this template made it nice and easy for us. We just have to fill out these 4 lines to be able to use it. The first is the automation ID, which is optional, so we're going to leave that alone. Next is an API key, which we talked about earlier, that we're going to need to use. Third is the YouTube URL that we want to access. And fourth is the type of prompt that we're going to use. So if we want something specific. And then from there, depending on what prompt you selected, it's going to go to one of these, whether it's generating the transcript, summarizing a prompt, setting a scene prompt, selecting clips. We just want the transcript prompt. And I think that's what they had it set as the default for right here. Yeah, so we have transcript as the prompt type, which means this block right here, which is a switch, checks if what we have here, which is the prompt type to lowercase, matches transcript. And if it does, it's going to send us over here. And then here, the prompt says to transcribe the video. And then they do some sort of mapping. And then it makes a call to Google Gemini to transcribe. And it merges all the outputs together and returns the data. So like, because the template's pre-built, you don't really need to know how this works. All you need to know is it starts here and it ends there and it gives us a transcript. And then we can come in and fill out the API keys. I'm going to do this off of screen where I type in the API key, because if you guys grab my API key, you can like make me bankrupt. Okay, so now I've entered my API key and I'm going to go ahead and save it. Okay. I've entered my API key. Now this workflow should be working. You can see the Google request runs now and we finish it. If we come here, this is the text from the sample YouTube video that we had up. So that's perfect. We can go ahead and try another video just to make sure it's working. So I'm going to grab a random video from online. So here, I have this like YouTube shorts from Alex Ramosi. I'm going to grab the link. Oops. Okay, sorry. Some technical difficulty. Yeah, okay. And then we can come back here where it's going to show my API key again. So I'm not going to show you that. It's kind of hard to do this on a live stream just because of the API keys. But I've entered the link to this new video, and now we're going to see if it's working. Cool. Okay. And now I can come into here and check. Yeah. So that's what he was saying at the beginning of the video was, yeah, I was talking to these college kids. Perfect. Our webhook is working. We can come back to Lovable and see if the app we were generating has loaded now. Cool, it has. And you can see it's a little glitchy. It talks about this webhook URL. I can ask it to remove it. I won't for the sake of time. But now what I'm going to tell it is that every time somebody puts in a link here and hits continue, I want it to access this URL. So right now, the trigger event is when we hit test workflow, right? So I want to add a new box and create a webhook. So perfect. Here we have a webhook and we have a test production URL for it that we're going to try to use. Let's see where this webhook went. Here it is. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say listen for test events. And I'm going to tell Lovable here, when the continue button is pressed, I want you to access this webhook. I want you to call this webhook. So we're going to do that and then hit continue to check. Okay, we have a couple of other questions we can answer in the meantime. One is, what as the cheapest inference solution you have found so far? What inference are you specifically talking about in terms of LLMs? For LLMs, DeepSeek is the best and the cheapest. I would definitely recommend going with DeepSeek, but all of them are pretty cheap until you start getting a ton of users. And somebody asked about security. Great question. So sites are never like fully secure, right? It's always just like a battle of how secure your site is from getting hacked. And one of the downsides of building with this is if you don't know any code, you have like no idea anything about security, your site might get hacked, right? So one, I'd recommend if you're building an app as a beginner, don't do it with sensitive information where if it gets leaked, it'd be like a big problem for the user. But secondly, there you can, and we'll cover this in our course as well. There's a couple of different security guidelines that you can try to implement, and you can ask Lovable itself to implement a lot of these for you to make it a lot safer. Of course, it's still not going to be 100%. But even if you took like a coding bootcamp, right, and you made a website, the security on that isn't going to be 100% either. So it's just a matter of like any website, if you're dealing with sensitive information, you have to get somebody to come to do the security for it. But if you're planning on launching a startup, you want to launch a prototype, like this is sufficient for doing that with some precautions that you can take. Cool. So this has loaded now. I'm going to just paste something in and then hit invalid YouTube URL. So now we got to tell it, just make the site one page where I can type in a YouTube video and don't tell me that the URL is invalid. So there's some like waiting time that will go into this, but after a couple of prompts, you should be able to get it working. Meanwhile, while this loads, I'm gonna come back to here to tell you like how you might go about debugging on Lovable, because sometimes it gets pretty complicated. First is you want to ask Lovable to fix it, and most of the times after a few prompts, this will get it to fix. If it doesn't, you can always revert to a previous version. So let me show you that over here. So we have this previous box here, and you can see restore. So if we go down like a pipeline of things are constantly broken, you can just restore and try it again from there. And a lot of times that will fix your problem. And then one prompt that I found super helpful in doing this is oftentimes AI gets stuck in a rut and goes down this like narrow rabbit hole of trying to solve this problem where the problem doesn't even exist. And this prompt has like gotten me to fix almost everything when I'm fully stuck. I just tell it, hey, forget everything you did before, completely zoom out again and try to approach the problem. And I could be like 5 or 6 prompts deep, it's not working. And when I tell it this, a lot of times it'll fix it. If that doesn't work, you can import your code. So all the code that's being written on Lovable gets exported to GitHub if you're a developer. So you can access your code on GitHub and try to use Cursor, which is another AI tool, to fix it. 5, you can try a different AI. If you've been using like ChatGPT before, you can switch it to Claude, use different AIs. And 6 is restart. This works great a lot of time. The output recommender that I was showing you, the student was having trouble getting it to work. spent a couple hours on it, and then we said, okay, let me help you out. We restarted, put a different prompt in, and almost got it to work in just like a few prompts. So yeah. And I'm going to show you the best way to go about prompting these here. So when you're building a complicated app, the most important thing will be the first prompt that you're feeding into Lovable. And this is the example that we came up with for the outfit of the day recommender. What you should be doing is be very, very specific. Tell it what you want and then give it examples. So for this app, I was telling it examples of like, we're going to upload an image and I want you to return a name, an image, a description, and a type of clothing for it. And I gave it 2 examples. And I also kind of tell it what I expect the output to be. So I say, hey, these items will be put into the wardrobe. And this is sectioned off by pages. So you tell it the first page, what you want it to look like, input, output, examples. And then second page, what do you want it to look like, input, output, and examples. And then once you have all of that written out, I recommend copy pasting all of it and putting it into ChatGPT so that it puts it in a really nice format for you. And then from there, depending on how many pages you're doing, if it's just 1 or 2 pages, you can paste the whole thing in for the first prompt. If it's like 5 or 6 pages you're doing, I would add 1 page at a time, paste it into there. How do you get to match your design vision from the app from a high level look to granular details? That's a good question. So if you're trying to make it look exactly like your Figma, this isn't the app for you to use. It would be pretty difficult to make it look exactly the same, but you can get it very close by taking screenshots. You can screenshot your Figma, paste it into there, and then tell it, hey, I want it to look like this. And it does a pretty good job most times of generating something similar. And I know I forget the name of it, but there's another tool that I recently saw coming out that's focused on taking the Figmas and converting it onto here. But for now, I would still recommend Lovable as the best one to use. Okay, and now let's go back to here. Okay, cool. Now it seems like it's working. Okay, so we hit generate screen transcript, listen. Let's see. Okay, now we're listening. So it didn't work. So now we need to tell it again. I'll say it's not working. Don't generate a transcript. Just call this webhook. And if this doesn't work, I have a chat log of how I previously did it, and I can show you. But yeah, you won't get stuck here. You just sometimes have to keep on chatting with it, but eventually it's going to end up working. And again, while this loads, I'll go back to the slides. I have one more thing. So in case you want some help learning how to do this, we have a course coming up in April that teaches you how to go about doing this whole process. So the things you receive is 1, you get a UC Berkeley Gen AI developer certificate. 2, everybody that joins the course is going to walk out with their startup built. So from beginning, from no coding experience, you will have your product fully launched with users by the end of this course. And on top of that, we're going to be bringing on some VCs to judge the top products, and those will be published to the UC Berkeley network. So we're going to put it out on all of our socials and everything, and hopefully you get a few more users from there. We'll also have virtual build communities through Gather, which you see in this picture here, which is like virtual desks. You can go on there, sit alongside other people, all working on your apps. And for tonight only, we're offering a discount. So it's going to be a 20% discount that expires tonight. So yeah, Gen AI 20. And you want to put that in the ID code box section at registration if you're interested. But the goal of this is basically if you have no previous code knowledge, or maybe if you have a little, but you have an idea you want to be working on, we get you to get that out and have it fully launched by the end of the class. Okay, cool. And now let's go back to here. All right. I'm hoping it has fixed it this time. Let's see. Listen for events again. And I need to paste a YouTube. Okay, got a YouTube link, call webhook. Okay, let's tell it one more time. This isn't working. This is the webhook. Okay, so I think I know what the issue is here. We wanted to make a GET request, which, yeah, a lot of this, because I'm touching it in an hour class, we hop over some of the details, but in the class we'll talk about a lot of the technical details. But I think what it's trying to do is make a post request. So post request is when you make a request to the webhook with some sort of parameter. A GET request is when you don't have any sort of parameter and you're just trying to make a response. So I'm just going to tell it, make a GET request to it. Yeah, and you can kind of just tell this by looking here. It says make a GET request, and I'm guessing Lovable is making a different type of request. Is there a recording for tonight? Yes, there will be a recording. I'm not sure exactly when it's gonna get put up till. Maybe Keith, do you know when the recording goes live for this?
Yeah, we'll be sending an email right after this to everyone who registered, so you'll receive this in your email pretty quickly after the webinar's over.
Awesome, cool, thank you. And then somebody said Bolt question mark. Do you want to elaborate? Bolt is another app that's exactly like Lovable, does the same thing. I've tested both. You can check our last live stream. We had me build an app using Lovable, and then somebody else build the app using Bolt. I think Lovable is nicer, but it's kind of up to personal preference. Bolt is a little bit more expensive though. Okay, let's try this again. So we're gonna say listen for test events, and then we're gonna call the webhook. There we go. Okay, cool, awesome. Now you can see it called it, and it received this some sort of request, so we can like continue to build out the implementation for this. I'm gonna go over to a workflow that I previously built, which is the same thing, and kind of walk through that instead of continuing here for the sake of time. So I'll save this, but I'm gonna head out. And yeah, okay. So here's what I previously created. It's the same webhook that you saw us do earlier. And the only other thing that I added is a respond to webhook button at the end here, which basically just says, hey, once you finish, give me a response. So I came here, I said I wanted you to give me a text response. And then here, I filled this out myself, but I can show you it's drag and drop. There's no coding that you have to do. I hit here to execute the previous nodes up until this node, so I can see what the input is supposed to be. And we can just give that a second. Okay, let me turn it on and off again. Let's see. I think it's because we're triggering it off of a webhook, which we're not triggering right now. So let's switch it over to this and call it again. Yeah, it was waiting for the trigger event, which was the webhook, which we didn't call, which is why it didn't work. But if we stop this and do it again, it's going to be triggered off of a click instead. Let's see if this works. Yeah, now you see, we can see all the actions taking event. And then there we go. Okay. So then this is the input. This is what we got coming into the cell. So the left hand side is going to be all the inputs. The middle side is going to be the action that you're going to be taking, and the right side is going to be the output. And I can see here, this is the video script, and this is what I want to be returned in the body. So I can just grab and drop this here, right? And then hit test step. And it says no webhook node found. But that's just because we swap this out. But if we add this back, that's going to go ahead and work. So yeah, now like that should be working, and we can call this webhook and have it all done. Yeah, webhook successfully done. And you can see here we get the URL and the answer AI generated. And then, yeah, we would just have to tell Lovable to, hey, access this new webhook to do it. I'm going to go ahead and show you like an example that I just built earlier for the sake of time. Okay, I think this is it here. Yeah, so you can see like it wasn't that bad. It took me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 prompts to get this working the previous time. It's just I gave it a much better first prompt, and for the sake of like going faster, when we were doing it live, I gave it a very short prompt, and you can like really tell the difference on how many additional prompts I ended up having to do to get this to work when I didn't make that first prompt super nice. So yeah, you can read this here, but I told it like exactly what I wanted to do, and it did a lot of better job generating it, and we can test that here. So I come here, I post this here, I hit generate script. Let's see if it works. I might have turned off the webhook, but we can take a look together. Okay, the webhook seems to be active. Script generated successfully. Well, it didn't generate. Let's go ahead and refresh. And you can come here and we can check the executions. So if you see here, we can see that just this one just came through and succeeded. Okay, so it seems like it's succeeding, but it's not showing the response. The webhook succeeds, but isn't showing the response. But yeah, after this gets working, we're like just about done. Is there any questions that anybody has in the chat before we wrap this up in a couple minutes here? Let's take a look. Oh, that's because it's okay. So I'm gonna restore over here because it switched to post instead of get, which we would need to do if we're uploading like this URL, but just for the sake of demoing. Let's try this again. I see people asking again, is there going to be a recording for tonight? Yes, we're going to be posting. If you just come back to the same link, you'll be able to see the recording shortly after this event. Print the results of the webhook after. Yeah, let's see. This is like live. You're seeing the struggle of like how you would go about debugging this, but it's just a lot of sitting here and talking to ChatGPT or Lovable in this case. I'm going to give it one more prompt here and try that out. If it doesn't work, we can go ahead and give up for the live stream. Oh, I see. It might be because I think I'm using the wrong workflow ID. this is the one I should be using. So there's two. There's one for testing and one for production, and I believe I was using the test one. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right there. I'll be posting more content about this, so if you're interested, go ahead and follow along, and you can shoot me a DM if you have any questions. But otherwise, oh, I see another question in the chat. Does ChatGPT premium subscription help this process to make better workflows? Not so. Yes and no. ChatGPT is not too familiar with N8N. I found a way of feeding the information into ChatGPT by downloading a bunch of previous N8N workflows. So yes, like you can reach out to me. This is like something I'm showing in the course. You out of the box, no, ChatGPT won't help you. But if you prompt it with the right information and feed it a couple of documents, then ChatGPT can actually generate these entire N8N flows for you, and you can just copy paste it into here. Any other final questions? Is this way of building an application really production ready besides the security piece? Yes, you can build something that's production ready besides the security piece. Like for example, the ones I showed you earlier, right? The ChatGPT therapist tool. Like this is something that fully works. I've tested it for most bugs as well. And yeah, like this works. This outfit enthusiast thing, you can upload your wardrobe and get recommendation. That works. You can like fully build production ready apps besides the security piece, which like again with the security piece, even if you know how to code and you build the app, you still have to deal with the security piece. Anybody building an app needs to deal with that. Testing framework. Yeah, you can follow like any QA testing guidelines that people typically follow for software engineering. You can do, but like you just the way I test it is I publish the site, I come onto here, try to use it in every different scenario that a user might be able to do it, find out where the bugs are. When I find that out, go back to Lovable, prompt it, and it'll help me come up with solutions for that. Amir, yes, this session will be posted. You can come and click the same link and it'll show you the recording after we end right here. We have another minute. Any other last questions? Cool. If not, I'll leave this up here as well. If you're interested in the course, up till the end of tonight, 20% discount code is GenAI20. And if you have any questions about the course or what it offers, you can go ahead and send me a message on LinkedIn as well. But otherwise, thanks everybody for joining. And excited to see what you build using. It's definitely DM me if you build something. Thanks everyone.